Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I have something a bit different than my self-healing series, but what we're gonna do today is bake sourdough bread. Actually, we're not gonna bake it today, but tomorrow morning, and that's why I'm starting right now with the preparation. It's about 9:29 the previous day. That's because it takes a while to bake sourdough bread. And I'm filming this professional, not so professional video because what I have found while learning, I recently only started learning how to bake sourdough bread, and what I found immediately was that all the YouTube videos were way too professional, way over the top, overwhelming with these steam ovens, all the professional equipment, which I didn't have. And so I found it a bit stressful and demotivating actually to follow all these special techniques that I didn't really understand, and I was missing an explanation, maybe even some mistakes to learn from and to see, okay, how is my bread supposed to perform, or how is the dough supposed to perform. So firstly, I'm gonna start with explaining the ingredients and explaining the starter, because the starter is the essential part of the dough. I made my own from scratch, and I also want to explain how simple it is to make your own, and not fast, it takes a few days, but it's fully possible if you don't have access to getting the starter from someone else. The first reason why I'm filming this video is that all the videos I found were way too professional and way too complicated to me. And the second reason was that all the videos were from white flour, white bread flour, all the sourdough breads that I found, which is great, but I personally prefer darker breads and more fiber in them. And so I made up my own recipe, because after a few times you try, you can start to experiment. I like to experiment a lot, and so I immediately started making my own recipe. I will put in some shots of my first bread, which was a very big disaster, but I just needed to feel into the whole process, what's happening, and I didn't expect much, and so it was raw, it wasn't rising, it was not such a... we didn't eat it, we just threw it out. The second bread was a bit better, but again it was with the white flour, didn't rise that well, I didn't really know what to do yet, and it was edible. Already the second one was edible. And the third one was the charm, I'm gonna put it in here, and it was very good. The crust was perfect. I got the things, and already with the third one I put in brown flour, seeds, and all the things I would like to see in a bread, and already that worked out. So today it's only the fourth time I'm making sourdough bread, but I'm pretty confident that I understood how to do it, and what works for me and what doesn't. I know I can still learn a lot more, and maybe in the future I can make a more professional video, but what I was lacking in the beginning was some support from someone who's still learning and who doesn't have it all figured out, and who's just trying to find what works. And there I find is more flexibility and more opportunity for you to try out different things, because if you come up with the perfect professional ratio of the ingredients, perfect video that has all the different special tools, then to me it's a bit limiting, because I then feel like I have to follow exactly what's in the video. So let's start with the ingredients. So first I'm gonna explain the starter, which I did do from white bread flour, which is okay. Maybe if I was gonna start it again, I would use dark flour, My starter is from the 8th of April. I put a date here. Today is the 25th, so it's a 16 days old starter. I'll explain this a bit later. The ingredients I'm going to be using today are brown bread wheat flour, wholemeal wheat flour, seed mix, pearl barley, water, warm, quite warm, more on the warm side, some salt that I already measured. The ratio I'm using is 300 grams wheat flour. I'm making quite a big bread, so the next will be 600 grams brown bread wheat flour, 20 grams of salt, 600 milliliters of warm water, seed mix, about 100 grams, pearl barley, about 100 grams of pearl barley soaked overnight. Let's start with explaining the starter. Starter is very simple. It is just flour and water. What we're doing with the starter, as long as I can understand, we're creating these microorganisms, our own yeast, by the process of fermentation, and it needs heat and feeding. That's what the microbes need. They're good for our gut. That's what happens in our gut also, but I'm not going to get too much into it. I can say a few advantages of the starter compared to yeast. It should be more digestible because the yeast feeds on the gluten, and then the contents of the bread have less gluten, and also it's more natural to the body because it's a microorganism that just you fermented it yourself. This is what the starter looks like after 16 days. I even made a little coat from a towel, kitchen towel, for my starter so it stays nice and warm. And in the beginning I did the starter by starting with 1 spoon of flour, 1 spoon of water every day. So the first 3 days, 1 spoon of flour, 1 spoon of water. On the 4th day, I fed it twice, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, 1 spoon of water, 1 spoon of flour. Same on the 5th and the 6th day. And on the 7th day, you can bake. How you bake is you take out a portion of the starter and then you feed the rest again. I kept feeding it. If you don't want to feed it and you want to stop the fermentation, you put it in the fridge with 50 grams of flour on top. And I didn't do this because I wanted to have more of the starter, and so I kept feeding it. So now I feed it every day, once a day. So it's not so high maintenance, actually very simple. You easily remember about it. Remember to feed it. It's easy to remember to feed it. I keep it next to the flour so that I can see the flour and I remember to feed it. Today I didn't feed it on the day of baking, and I'm gonna just measure out about 200 grams of the starter because I found that if you use more starter, it works better. And so I'm gonna be using, because it's a really big ratio, big bread, I'm using 600 milliliters of water and 900 grams of flour. So I'm gonna be using 200 grams of the starter. To reach this amount, it's not gonna be sufficient to feed it for 7 days. It's gonna be maybe 10-15 days, but I think you can half the ratio of all my ingredients and start with 100 grams. That's what I was doing in the beginning. I was starting with 100 grams. So the actual process that I'm gonna start doing is with autolyse. First, when I heard this word, I was like, oh, that must be something very complicated. But actually what it does, it's very simple, and I think it does make sense to me, and it helps to start the gluten process of the flour. So what we want to do is we want to achieve the rising of the bread, and we have to use the ingredients that are contained inside our ingredients. So whatever's in there, we want to use it and maximize it working, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna mix the flours, 2 different flours. So we have 600 grams of brown flour and 300 grams of whole wheat, wholemeal, and then I'm gonna mix it and add water. This is to start the process of the gluten activation, and in 1 hour I'm gonna then add the starter. So I'm starting with the flour combined, and I'm gonna slowly add water. This is called the autolyse, and it's a process where we start activating gluten. Again, I'm just telling you what I understood. I'm definitely not an expert yet, but I understand that once the flour connects with the water, it starts the process of the gluten. It actually already makes bread in a way. You can do this with a spoon if you don't like to get messy, but I actually enjoy this part. Of getting sticky and messy. First I was doing it only with the spoon, but now I found I like this sensation. Or you can even use a machine to knead it. What I find with sourdough bread, the more time you put into it, the better it is. So it's a therapeutic thing to do. Very good for self-healing, for your mental health. So it is part of my journey, definitely. Also understanding, or recently I've been learning about gut health. So this definitely makes sense to me. Put the time into the bread that I love. Definitely sticky, but we're getting there. So I really like to mix it very well, but it doesn't have to be not sticky in this phase. So just clean your hands best you can and let it be sticky in this phase. The stickier the better, I would say. Wash my hands, cover it and let it rest for 1 hour. Okay, so 1 hour later, let's see what we got. This is the dough of after the otolis. So I repeat, otolis is only mixing the flour and the water and leaving it for 1 hour. We're activating the gluten and the sticky process. Now we can see that it's already more flexible and less sticky. Okay, so now we're gonna add 200 grams of the starter and 20 grams of salt, and I'm using a big ratio for a bigger bread. This is 900 grams of flour, and you can use half, so then you can have all the ingredients. I'm gonna list the ingredients below. So let's see how this goes. Let's put in the starter. It's gonna be again quite sticky. Starter is active. And I'll put in the salt. To combine it a little bit with the spoon, but it's better just to get in there. I found that getting dirty, messy and sticky is better because it just combines the ingredients in a way you can't achieve it with a spoon. Obviously with a machine I think you can achieve it, but I like to think you're putting in also your energy and you're creating the vibration of the bread, and then you're gonna eat that vibration. So now I'm gonna talk about the process to come. This was the first 1 hour of making the dough, and now there will be the process of folding the dough. So they say you can fold it every half an hour or every 1 hour. Today I'm gonna do it every 1 hour, and I'm gonna be folding 4 times. So after I finish this mixing, I'm gonna let it for rest again for 1 hour, and then I'm gonna start the folding, which I'll show you. For you to have the idea of how long this whole process takes. It's gonna be 4 more hours, but then you let it rise to double the size for another, let's say 3 to 4 hours. After that, we put it in the fridge overnight. This is the way I'm gonna be doing it this time. If you have a cool environment, you don't even have to put it in the fridge. I found it's okay if you just leave it outside. Alright, so after mixing in the starter, it's very pretty. Looks like this. I won't do anything with it right now. I'll leave it rough like this. And since it's quite cold in here, I put a bowl with a little bit of boiling water, and I'm gonna just put this on top. It will help the rising, the fermenting a bit. Cover it up and check in for the first fold in 1 hour. I also wanted to show you this pot where I'll be baking it in. I'll preheat the pot and then bake it in it tomorrow. Okay, so now we're going for our first fold. 1 hour, looks like this. Just put the bowl aside, and I have a little bowl with water, normal cold water, and I want to wet my hands every time a little bit so that the dough doesn't stick to it. And I'm gonna take it from one side, take it, like pull it out a bit, extend it and fold it. Okay, this is for building the net of the gluten. Now I turn it around, wet my hands a bit more, then take it from the side, take it under the dough, extend and fold. It's only 4 times, so this is the second time. Always put water again, then take it from one side, extend and fold, and now turn it to the last 4th side, take it from the bottom, extend and fold. Okay, looks like this. 4 times folded, and I'm gonna cover it again, put it on top of the hot water bowl and leave it another 1 hour. So I'm gonna be doing this 4 times, the folding every 1 hour. So here I'm gonna show you a tip. And so these are my alarms. This was the first fold right now at 12:10. The second fold will be 1 hour from now. The third fold will be 2 hours from now, and then the fourth fold at 3 hours from now. And the fourth fold is where I let it rise and double its size, and then I'm gonna check the rising 3 hours later. Probably, I assume at like before I go to bed, I will put it into the fridge. The difference is 1 hour, but it can also be half an hour. This depends on you and you just how you feel, how long you want to dedicate to the bread that day. So I chose this to have 4 folds, but you can also have 3 minimum, or you can have 5. So now I'm doing, after 1 hour, I'm gonna do the second fold. Looks like this. This one. Again, wet your hands in a bowl of water, and you want to take it to the side, under, stretch and fold. Turn around 90 degrees. Take it from under. It's very sticky, but it's nice and flexible. Stretch and fold. Turn it 90 degrees. Take it from under. Stretch and fold. Turn around. Take it from under. Stretch and fold. That's it. 4 times folded. And I'm gonna check back in with it in 1 hour for the third fold. Okay, so I came back for the third fold after another hour. And we'll come back in 1 hour for the last 4th fold. Okay, so I'm here for the 4th stretch and fold phase. So I'm gonna put this water here. And in this phase, I'm gonna incorporate this barley that I soaked overnight. I'm gonna fold it in. Okay, so I'll actually start by adding in a little bit. Now, with every fold, I'll add a little bit. This, you don't have to add this, it's up to you. If you want to add some other grains, even oats, I will be adding the seeds a bit later after this phase. So with every fold I'm gonna add some of this. Because it's soaked, I want it to connect to the gluten in the flour and the dough. So again, the same process. Take it under, stretch it, fold it, flip it around, some more of this. Add in the rest. Press it in a bit. And stretch and fold it in. Press it in a bit more. It's gonna add some fiber. It's gonna help it create those bubbles we want. Very nice. This is what it looks like, and now this is the phase of letting it rise, basically double. It should double in size over the next 3 to 5 hours. I think it should be okay that it has risen, and this is gonna be the last phase. So now I'll add a lot more boiling water in this bowl because that one's already cold. I'll put it under so that it can help the rising because the environment here is quite cold. So this is how it looks after 3 hours. It has pretty much doubled the size. It looks very good. It's also still quite warm, but the hot water trick helped a lot. We can see bubbles forming here. And I'm just gonna let it rise a bit more for 1 to 2 more hours. It would be okay to work with it already now, but I'm just gonna let it a bit longer. You can always adapt the times a bit to how it suits you, whatever you need to do in between and so on. Except for the folding, it should be every hour or every half an hour. And so yeah, so I'll come back to show you the pretty much last part, folding in the seeds and putting it into the bowl where it's gonna stay in the fridge overnight. Okay, so this is the final stage of this day. What I have is, I'm gonna do it on this board. See if this is a bowl with a little cloth that will go in the fridge overnight with the dough. I'm gonna use this white bread flour. Here I have the seeds, some water in a bowl, and then our dough, which has risen nicely. It's more than 2 times the size, so it's perfect. So first I'm gonna put some flour on the board because it's gonna be quite sticky. And also I'm gonna put flour in the bowl, enough so that it doesn't stick onto the cloth. Better using this fine cloth than a kitchen towel because it will probably stick to the kitchen towel. Now I'll wet my hands and put the dough onto here. It's beautiful, fluffy. That's a lot of it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so if it's not spread, then you want to spread it on the whole board. But mine is really big, so it's spread out. And now I'm gonna put, like, gently all these seeds. Gently work with the dough because it's all the bubbles we want already. It's maybe a lot of seeds, but it doesn't matter. Now we're just gonna fold it from one side. I'm gonna use flour on my hands instead. And I'm just gonna fold this from one side. And then fold it from the other side, like this. And now the final roll. So I'll turn it around and roll it. Oh, it's quite sticky. This is a big loaf. Now you want to work it as you want, adding some flour. It's good to work it gently, and basically you want to create some pressure on the top. So you're folding it inside, just gently, not popping the bubbles. There's some techniques that I still need to learn, but it works like this. And now I'm gonna flip it with this closed side inside the ball to have the open cut on the inside, on the top. Okay. Now we just tie it together. They do all these special techniques, but then they always say it doesn't matter. So it's more about closing it up. However, because this is then gonna go on the bottom, right? After we flip it to bake it in the morning. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. And now a little bit more flour on top. And this is it. I'll cover it a bit. And I'll check on it in the morning. Good morning, it's the next day today and the bread has risen very nicely. I'll show you now. So the bread was in the fridge overnight, looks like this. Expanded a little bit more. Cut this paper and we're gonna work with this now. And so I'm gonna put this pot to preheat with the oven for, let's say, 20 minutes. The temperature should be pretty high. So in a gas oven that we have here, I'm doing 225 degrees. So now I'm gonna show you how to flip the bread. So I'll take the baking paper and basically I can put it on top, hold it here and flip it out with the cloth, like so. Take out the bowl, remove the cloth. Looks very good. Clean off some of the flour, and now we're gonna do the scoring, which means cutting on top of the bread. I'm using scissors because I don't have that very sharp, like sort of scalpel-y thing. It's very important to make one deep cut. You could go around the whole bread, which maybe I'm gonna do, or you go through the bread, and this allows the bread to open in that cut, and then you can do some decorating cuts on the sides. So I'll start here, really cut in quite deep, because you allow the bread to open. It needs to open somewhere. If you don't do the cut, then it could pop in places you don't want it to pop. And expand in that one too. First I was a bit skeptical about the scissors, but it actually works pretty good. Now I will take out the hot pot, take it from underneath, place it in the pot, and then bake. So make sure you score or cut open the bread just before you place it in the preheated oven, in the preheated pot. And I just wanted to add that it was overnight in the fridge, but if you have a cool environment, then you can also leave it outside. This is the result. Beautiful bread. Ooh, still hot. I'm gonna let it cool down now, and then we're gonna do the final cut. It's more dense, I like it. It smells very nice. The rising can always be a bit better, but let's see with the cut. And yeah, overall looks like a beautiful bread. It's nice to see all the seeds.
How is it?
Very nice.